Instead of that anger that burns others, you have an anger that is in a service to others. Warmth of heart. Gives you a bright smile. Can you imagine how attractive that person is if they've gone from a raging anger to a smile that lights up the person they're smiling at? Look at that difference of attraction. There's no skincare that can do that. Because sometimes you feel like a mess. Sometimes you feel like not worth nothing. Sometimes you feel like you're on top of the world. And sometimes you feel like you're better than others. And that's also a false feeling, you know. So we have all sorts of feelings, but feelings only represent a changing relativity. They don't represent any supreme truth. But our feeling energy can bring us into our intuitive energy, definitely. And so when you have a charged up magnetism, then the feeling energy can flow more in alignment with the intuitive energy versus the energy that crashes us down or lifts us up too high. And too high in the sense of if it goes up, what is that wave? You've seen like a sound wave, and like there's a central point here, and then the wave goes up and down. So the line represents the neutrality, and then you go up and a down and a up and a down and a up and a down. And in life, if it goes up like a peak and it makes friction, then it also will go down at a peak and a down peak, and it'll make friction. So that's the dance of life, I think, is to experience all of that, to not judge it, to not act like it shouldn't happen, because it's happening. And if I think it shouldn't happen, it doesn't stop it from happening. And so therefore, I kind of try to do my best to surrender the whole judgment on it and all the ideas around it, and see if I can get into a place where I can just experience life without all the narratives. And then you can feel more clearly, you can think more clearly, and then it's just, we can not be as afraid of the difficult feelings and difficult emotions. And if we feel like a wreck, we can allow ourselves to feel like a wreck, because it's only, remember, relativity. We're only temporarily a wreck. That's just one part of our experience for that time. And then at some point, it's going to come back up. But what I find to be insightful and interesting is to notice the inner grasping and pushing away. Because to whatever extent I'm grasping onto the things that I want and pushing away the things that I don't want, this is with the subconscious mind. But that's how magnetics work. It's not out on the periphery. It's coming from the center of us. And so the subconscious mind is where the grasping and the pushing away is predominantly taking place, because I might know theoretically all is love, but my behavior may not be representing that, or my experience of myself, my feeling might not be representing that at the moment. And so what do? Hopefully I'll have compassion, and have compassion for my own predicament, and then I'll maybe take a nap. Compassion will give me the wisdom to take a nap. Yeah, or eat something. Have you noticed that when the world will be crashing around you and then you have lunch? And all of a sudden the blood sugar balances and things are okay again a little bit. Sometimes we don't even realize we're hungry though. And so that's interesting. So this is what I think is the beauty of this type of work, because it works with the magnetics in such a way. It's practical, it's physical, it's embodied. Because it's not really philosophical, it doesn't really lean on any belief system. It's just practical experience of, let me see if I can make myself feel good, and let me see if I can give myself a type of energy environment to work with, that I can trust myself, I can trust my sense of knowing and inner direction. And the thing is, all of that is not usually having much to do with the rational mind. And all of our narratives that we have to do with the rational mind. Well, sometimes not. Sometimes our emotions can be very irrational, but they feel very real. But when we're talking about intuition and sense of direction is often not rational. Sense of direction is a feeling of the heart, of course. And so although intuition, we talk about like a third eye and the intuitive mind, and that's absolutely a part of it. But my experience is intuition is when the heart and the head are connected well. And that's, I think, why Mercury you have in the middle of the two. Mercury is Buddha in India, is the messenger of the gods in all the mythologies, Mercury. His name is Buddha. And he's also the Vishuddha Chakra, Mercury, the messenger. So they communicate. So can the heart communicate to the head? Well, yes, it can, absolutely. When magnetics are good, magnetics are balanced. What do you mean magnetics? You have two poles, base of the spine and top of the head, and then between those two poles flows your chi, life force. Simple. There's 3 primary channels that it moves through. One is a lunar, one is a solar. And then there's a neutral, central channel. There's a lunar channel, the Ida Nadi or Chandra Nadi, the feminine channel. And then you have a Surya Nadi, the Pingala Nadi, the masculine channel. And one starts at the left side of the tip of the spine and spirals up and ends at your left nostril. And the other one starts at the right bottom tip of the spine and spirals up and ends at your right nostril. So you can go like that. Inhale through the left nostril. Exhale through the right nostril. And you're practicing Chandra Pranayama. So you're increasing the energy of the moon, of the lunar, feminine, softer energy. Yeah? So if you're raging hot, then maybe that's like, do that for 20 minutes. 20 minutes is too long. No, it's not. Raging hot energy sucks. It does for the person experiencing it and then those around them. But there's nothing wrong with us. This is fire. And sometimes our emotions are very powerful. So that's the difference between actually taking the leap from judging it to being okay with it all, but having enough empowered energy in ourselves to take care of our own happiness. And so if I'm going to take care of my own happiness, then I also have to be concerned for the happiness of those around me, others, starting with the ones I have the tightest karmic connect bonds with, and those are what? Family members. The really tight inner circle. But then it extends boundlessly away from that. It's just starting point, family members. And you say, well, family members sometimes are the hardest, though, depending on the relationship with the family. And yet, then that's understand through compassion, or you misunderstand the time. I find that one line right there holds up really, really well. Understand through compassion, or you misunderstand the time. And so therefore, if there was a raging hot anger, maybe like a few breaths through your left nostril, exhale through your right nostril would help a little bit, but it's probably not going to change it enough if you actually wanted to make a shift. Now, what's the main problem, though? Is if we're overcome by anger, what's the chances we're going to sit down and do a pranayama? Not very good. So maybe first, like I'll play basketball and then do a pranayama or something like that. Or do something that can be very physical often, like where you can move that powerful energy of ours. But the energy itself is not bad energy. That's fire, that's passion, that's your motor, that's what you actually need for whatever our life is all about. That's your Mars. But if it's kind of like blown a fuse and now it's like burning things everywhere in an uncontrollable way, it'd be better to like contain it, but not stifle it. It's like, and like sphincter is always tight. And life is a drag like that. So soften. So for that fella or lady or person, I first think fella, to be honest. And like instead of waiting for the anger to come, what you would do is a daily practice of even just a few minutes of, say, for instance, not the only thing you could do, but for instance, you would do a daily practice for a more extended period of time of the lunar pranayama. That will not stifle the anger, that will keep your good fire, but it will help it to be desirable expression of fire. Now you have good passion, you have good zest for life, but it also can be warmth of the heart. Instead of that anger that burns others, you have an anger that is in a service to others. Warmth of heart. Gives you a bright smile. Can you imagine how attractive that person is if they've gone from a raging anger to a smile that lights up the person they're smiling at? Look at that difference of attraction. There's no skincare that can do that. You know what I mean? So lunar pranayama. That's just one option, But the same is with anxiety and worry and overwhelm and anxiousness. So there's also, you see whatever it is that's currently the thing, you can target it with some sort of a practice. If you know a little, it's not even that complex, it's quite simple. But it takes a little bit of learning. And then you can put something in place that will then develop basically you're changing the groove. Like a record follows a groove. Remember those records? But they're coming back, thank goodness. Because do you know like when you're listening on an analog sound wave, back to sound waves for a moment, it has this nice, like this, curve, smooth. But when we listen on our phones with the MP3s, it's like more like a staircase. Jink, 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 jink. And so actually we don't even realize it, but your brain has to interpret, instead of what's in between like stair 1 and stair 2 and stair 3 and stair 4, there's less information there. There's less, and so there's a little bit of, what we think is there's a harder work that has to be done. Remember when we all used to listen to whole albums? Nobody does albums anymore. Very few are listening to whole albums, and I think it's part of that. There's more exhaustion when listening to digital files than there is analog files. Whereas you put on a nice record on a hi-fi system, you just sit back, you don't need a TV. It's so good, so, but I also would like a TV. Just to be clear. So anyhow, this is the magnetics of things. What was I talking about before the sound wave happened? I don't know. Oh, so the anxiety and worry. And this is just painting the little picture so that when we do the practice, we have something to go with. Or anything, you're creating consistency around that, and you're creating a new groove. Because habits are grooves in the subconscious, and thus in the nervous system. So I might have a groove of feeling insecure in this particular domain of life. Yeah? The sun is placed in the 12th house. So there's always a self-doubt there. But that same self-doubt, like my teacher is saying, on a D- day, that'll be like insecurity, self-doubt. But on a day, or even a B day, that self-doubt will be more like introspection, which will give you greater awareness and more clarity of who you really are. You won't be so easily convinced into your mind and personality as who you are. So that thing that astrologers often don't like, something like sun in the 12th house, is not considered great. But it'll make you a yogi, which is fantastic. It can make you a yogi, absolutely, meaning it'll put you on a search to find out who you really are, what you really are. And that will make some of the horoscope just irrelevant. Eventually, in a certain way, there's that great chapter in Autobiography of a Yogi. What is it called? Outwitting the Stars. Yeah, that great chapter. When they describe, and Sri Yukteswar's teacher says that a person is born at that moment and that time where there's like a mathematical equivalent of the karma of that person. He said a happy person cannot be born at a sad moment. Interesting idea, huh? And a sad person can't be born at a happy moment. Interesting. But the karmas are the grooves. And so I have this particular behavior, this particular way of operating via my subconscious that tendency towards, say, for instance, insecurity. That's not a forever thing necessarily. That's actually that same thing that is causing insecurity can be the same thing that liberates that person and allows them to find real happiness, and then to have the smile that lights up others because they got some happiness for themselves. That's what we were doing. So that's the basic idea, magnetics. So it's not changing anything fundamentally about ourselves, just get our wiring good. Make the thing work and shine and feel good and connect into a sense of purpose. And no matter how tough things get, you'll always, always, always be good. Because you're good and you know how to make yourself good when you're not feeling so good. And that's good.
Thanks for watching on YouTube. Best easy way to stay in touch with us. Hit the subscribe button here. You'll see our videos when they come up. If you enjoyed this one, hit the like button. It'll help more people see it, help the channel grow. I appreciate you watching.